Welcome back. Well, if you're looking to increase crop yields, do so efficiently. That means that first pass and only pass across your field is very important. I'm here with Justin, and Justin, I tell you what, very impressed with the workshop that you're putting on today. And part of that you brought out, really, we're talking about a matter of hours to be able to give that corn or seed a head start. And this machine here really helps a lot. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yeah. We're standing here in front of the 2150 early riser planter. And different studies have shown that once you want your corn to emerge within, I always said 48 hours of each plant within each other. Now studies we looked at today are they want corn to optimize yield to emerge within 24 hours of each other. So it's very important if you're trying to raise yields that you plant efficiently and that you get each plant to come up almost at the same time. Right. Cornfield, as I always say, is a competition. So if you get a plant that is behind as far as the collar or the crop growth of the plant beside it, well, now that plant is stealing nutrients, it's trying to rob sunlight and water from the plant beside it. So essentially that stunted plant, that one that's behind, becomes a weed. And it is pulling in the resources that the plant beside it could be using to enhance its yield, whereas this runted plant beside it, this runt pig, is just not going to produce anything as far as an ear, if at all, tiny ear or nothing at all, right, depending on how far behind it is. So it's really important that you go through and you plant and you use a tool that will plant correctly at the same depth, at the same spacing every time, to enhance that yield and get that best potential out of that crop, for sure.
And you know, with that said, that's what this machine was designed for and has a proven track record of, sure, to be able to get it done right. So you're going to have better yields doing so efficiently and maybe just one pass like you should be doing.
Yeah, nobody wants to plant twice. Planting twice costs money, a lot of money to do. So you want to make sure you do it right the first time. You want to do it efficiently because you don't have a huge window to plant correctly. You want to plant in good conditions. You want to do it once, and you know, as weather changes and things change, that window that you have good soil conditions, good weather conditions to plant gets smaller and smaller. So you want a piece of equipment, a planter, that's going to be able to do it in one pass and do it right and do it really nice. And that's what the early riser planter does.
And there's a number of factors it uses to accomplish that. One of them is downforce, and if you're looking at the best system, you're really talking delta. Is that right?
Yes, sir. So the early riser planter, the 2000 series, like this 2150, comes equipped with a hydraulic downforce system. So row by row downforce system on hydraulic cylinders on each row. So it senses when that row unit starts to raise up, and it applies more down pressure on that individual row to keep it in the ground and keep it steady with the rows beside it. On the contrary, if you are on the opposite side, if you're in tillage and it senses that that row unit is pushing down too far, it actually pulls that cylinder up and pulls that row unit up, so we have a good steady ride and a steady seed trench along the way. So it really intuitive system as far as keeping that down and up as far as on that downforce system. Very important in these soil conditions where we're at now, sure.
So there's really a lot of data that flows through this system to the brain box, if we could call it that. It's really a monitor, yes, and it does so quite rapidly. You know, I think 30 times a second it's actually monitoring all of this. Yep. So you're not going to have these big swells. You're going to be able to accommodate within 2 or 3 inches.
That's correct. Yeah. It's intuitive, and it's making decisions on the fly very quickly based on the sensors that are in the planter that, hey, I need to apply more down, more up to keep that row unit steady across that planter. So different soil conditions. We have a lot of different fields in areas where we'll have different soil conditions across the whole field. Plus, you have issues now with compaction, with different tractor tire arrangements. So you have to keep, especially on the downforce system, be flexible to go across those conditions and be able to plant nicely into those conditions for sure.
You know, we won't mention any other brands, but there are a couple out there that are really struggling with downforce. In fact, you see these big suitcase weights hanging off the end, trying to accomplish that. It gives more force, but it doesn't apply it when it's needed. And so this really manages that aspect. The next aspect is actually delivery of the seed. Is that right?
Sure, sure. So you want to make sure that the seed makes it to the seed trench in a nice orderly style, as I always call it, very simply. So good singulation in the seed trench, nice picket row stands start with nice placement of seeds. So you want to make sure that you got a good meter system. So we have an electric drive meter system on this planter that pulls the seed from the bulk hopper, okay, down to the row unit, and then meters out that seed individually on a electric motor. So electric motor turns out each individual row. So the immediate benefit of that is good singulation, good control at each row unit, plus savings when you're going into headlands or corner rows, so it shuts off each row individually and then turns it back on as you come back out of that. And what you don't have on a planter like this, because you have those electronic motors, is you don't have sprockets, you don't have chains. So you get a chain that's crimped or a bad sprocket and a skip, and in a lot of cases you don't know you have that until it starts to emerge, until it starts to grow. So you find out after the fact that, oh, my planter was skipping on row 8. Every other plant is missing, or in extreme cases, but have some of those skips. So each row unit has the sensors to tell you when it's planting right, what the singulation is, plus individual row control, very dynamic as far as each row goes.
So with singularity, the seed is being delivered, and it's being delivered into the exact type of soil and exactly where it needs to be able to thrive.
That's correct, yes. And the early riser planter features a couple different things on the row unit as far as making that furrow. So we have an offset opening disc on there. So versus trying to push a V down to create a V-shaped disc, you have an offset, so it actually slices through with the first disc and then pushes material out of the way to form that V behind it. Then versus a seed firmer, we use a seed, we have what I like to call like a little trench box down there that holds that furrow open. So you're not trying to push it and form it, but you're just holding it open long enough for that seed to drop down into there, and then a two-stage closing system that pulls it back shut. So a disc that kind of pinches, and then a rubber wheel on the back that pushes it down. Meanwhile, we feature the reduced inner diameter gauge wheels. So as you're forming that trench, you're actually stockpiling a little bit of moist soil from the bottom of the seed trench up along the side, so you have something to get that started, so you can reach those points as far as seed trench moisture to start the emergence of that seed.
And you know, the systems out there that don't use the offset, sometimes after just a little bit of use, you start getting a W instead of a V, and then that seed either sits in one of 3 places, maybe trying on the top or left or right, so you end up with something that's not ideal for that seed to flourish.
Yeah, we're trying to form that furrow and then drop that seed immediately down in there and then leave it so that you couldn't find the seed behind it. So it's nicely tucked in there to avoid air pockets or that delay in emergence, because the seed from here may have sat on the top of that W and the seed below went to the bottom of that W, and now the moisture difference causes seed A to emerge differently at a different time than seed B, and then you lose that stand as far as being steady and even at 24 or 48 hours.
And finally, we have fertilizer delivery.
Yes.
And actually, this offers a number of different options, whatever we'd like to do.
Sure. So on this early riser planter, this one specifically, we have an in-furrow fertilizer system, so you can deliver your pop-up or your seed start right in furrow, so keeping it close to the plant where it's available to the plant and keeping it under some soil so it doesn't go away. We also have the options to add different 2x2 or systems to deliver some nitrogen away from the seed, so the seedling is safe from being burnt by the nitrogen, but still deliver it under the ground using a frame-mounted coulter or another coulter closer to the row cleaner, where we can deliver that nitrogen under the ground, so it doesn't go away due to the atmosphere, but it's still far enough away from the seed so that when a seed needs some nitrogen, it can go and voluntarily retrieve it from
Well, I tell you what, this is an amazing system, a proven system. That's why it's liked so much out there. And, just the delta factor gives you a lot of different options. Tilled, low till, and even no till. This is going to be the perfect solution.
Yes, yeah. So just talking regionally in the Northeast, the most important piece to a planter, in my opinion, is the downforce, keeping that row unit consistently in the ground at a certain level with the right amount of downforce so that you maintain good planting depth. And this hydraulic downforce system is key to any planter, any soil type, when you get into our type of fields where you'll have different soil types across the whole field, many different soil types. Soil consistency, sandy to clay to rocky to whatever, that's kind of key to the good starting point as far as this planter, and honestly pays for itself as far as when you have it on a planter.
Well, I spoke to one farmer today. He's got all 4 soil types on his farm.
Yep. I farm, and I did a test once that I had a 2-acre field where I had 5 different soil types across it. So, yeah.
That is amazing. Well, I tell you what, innovative, always forward-looking. All of our radars are up out there right now. Our viewers want to know the best way they can learn more about product information. Where could they go?
Sure. So contact your local Case IH dealership. Speak to them about the Early Riser planter, or go to caseih.com to learn more information about the planters.
Easy enough. Thanks so much for being on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.